Plus, Vice President Biden and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg meet today with the families of Newtown school shooting victims. Yesterday, I spoke with Robbie and Alyssa Parker. Their daughter, 6-year-old Emily Parker, was killed at Sandy Hook Elementary. Robbie, as you may remember, was one of the first family members to speak out. He gave an emotional news conference within a day of the shooting. And we spoke with them about how they continue to deal with their incredible loss.
Feel good about it.
Sunday will mark 100 days. What has this past 3 months been like for you?
A little bit of everything. You know, you went from the absolute worst experience that you could ever imagine to have to go through as a parent to and being overwhelmed with that sense of grief and loss to, on the other end of the spectrum, you're being completely overwhelmed with outpouring of love and support from so many people and everything that kind of falls in between.
I want to ask you about some of the reports that have been out this week that investigators have determined that Adam Lanza kept this massive spreadsheet tracking the death toll of other mass shooters, the types of weapons that they used, and methodically plotted how he would kill more. What did you think when you heard those reports?
I think any information that you gain in this experience is just that. It's information, and then you have to choose how you're going to handle it. And so for us, we've decided that what works best for us is you receive a bit of information, you process it, you feel the emotion that comes along with it, and then you have to let it go.
Just like another piece to the puzzle, and it always brings with it a period of, you know, sorrow, pain, and you deal with it and you just move on. The outcome is still the same, regardless if it was planned, not planned, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change that our child's gone.
You met with investigators today.
Mm-hmm.
Did you learn any new details?
Not specific. Unfortunately, we had set up this meeting last week before all the new reports about Adam Lanza came out. The first way that we heard about this was a reporter calling us, telling us things that they were going to report and if we had a comment on it. And so it was nice to talk to the detectives, because they're the ones that are analyzing all of the information, and they can tell us with a surety what was reported, what was true, and what wasn't true.
I understand that you met with Peter Lanza, Adam Lanza's father. Why did you meet with him?
That was kind of my doing. I guess the reason why I felt strongly that I needed to tell him something, and I needed to get that out of my system. I felt very motivated to do it, and then I felt really good about it. I prayed about it, and it was something that I needed to do.
They're the only family that met with Adam Lanza's father, Peter Lanza. What did they hear?
You know, this is extraordinary because they are still dealing with so much grief, and to reach out to the father of Adam Lanza and then meet with him for over an hour. And you hear Alyssa say that she believes that Peter Lanza holds the keys to this whole thing, and she needed some closure. And so tomorrow we're going to show you more of our interview, but what she says is that since Nancy Lanza, the mother, is dead and Adam is dead, she wanted to hear from Peter Lanza about Adam Lanza's medical history, about the parents' relationship with Adam Lanza. They want to know why. You know, I think that so many people want to know, why would this happen? And so they've got some really interesting things to say about that meeting, and we'll show you more of that tomorrow.
It's hard to find closure, though, isn't it?
Incredibly hard to find closure. They have 2 other daughters, and they talk a lot about blame. They talk a lot about forgiveness and the incredible community. Charlie, they have received thousands of letters from Americans reaching out to them. I think it's one of the untold stories about, as we mark 100 days on Sunday, about how many Americans have shown their love for these families in Newtown.
I can't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah. This Sunday marks 100 days since Adam Lanza shot and killed 20 children and 7 adults in Newtown, Connecticut. Robbie and Alyssa Parker, the parents of one of those students, Emily, are telling us about a private meeting they had with Lanza's father. This is the only one of its kind, and they say he's now playing an active role in the search for answers.
On January 23rd, a little more than a month after Robbie and Alyssa Parker's daughter Emily was killed at Sandy Hook Elementary, they met with
appreciation for the things that I had said in that press conference.
And we want everybody to know that our hearts and our prayers go out to them. This includes the family of the shooter.
We felt like that doorway had been opened a little bit, or that olive branch had been extended for us to be able to get together and to speak and to offer condolences on both sides and just kind of get to talk as parents.
Alyssa, what did you want to say to him?
You know, I guess the best way to put it was I wanted to tell him that there was a lot of hope and opportunity to gain from this, that he held the keys to, because there was information and things to be learned from what happened, and without his cooperation, it would go nowhere.
What do you mean he held the keys to this?
Meaning that he had the most information about his medical history, the things that he'd gone through.
The people that could answer a lot of questions that all of us have aren't with us. Adam's gone and his mother's gone. And those are the two people that could give us the most information to the questions that all of us have.
the Parkers' private meeting with Peter Lanza lasted more than an hour.
Was the meeting emotional?
Very, as you can imagine. And he, you know, we definitely expressed our condolences for one another, and we just felt like he was very receptive to the things that we had to say. I got the impression from him that he was very grateful for the opportunity to get a chance to speak to somebody.
I think people will watch this and they will say, how could they meet with him and talk to him? Didn't you want to pound him on the chest? Didn't you want to scream at him? Didn't you want to just say, how could you let your son do this to my daughter? From that those first moments, we had to quickly come to a realization of what had happened, and also, to a degree, come to peace with some of it, because we knew that we couldn't undo anything. So the idea of wasting any energy on anger towards somebody or trying to point blame at anybody seems like a waste of time and energy that we can use to be better parents to our girls.
Emily was the Parkers' oldest. They have two younger daughters, Madeline and Samantha, ages 5 and 3.
So how are Madeline and Samantha doing?
They're doing well now.
Yeah.
You know, they're like us. They have ups and downs, you know, waves.
It's hard as a parent to see your daughter have to go through that same feeling that you were feeling the day before. And you know you can't take it away from her. And when you look at Madeline and she's talking about something that she wishes Emily could have done with her, and she starts crying. And it's okay to cry about it too. And it's okay to express what it is that you're feeling the best way that you know how. I think if we can impart that onto them, that's our greatest accomplishment.
Do your daughters say anything about Adam?
The Parker family says their faith in the Newtown community has helped them cope with the loss of Emily and find peace with Adam Lanza's parents.
Not in her place. I don't understand their dynamics and their situation, so I'm never going to understand that. Does she have accountability? Oh, I think she has a lot of accountability. Do I think it was her fault? I'm sure that there were things that, you know, she's gonna have to be accountable for, but again, it's not my burden to carry.
But don't parents bear some responsibility for how their children behave and their children's actions?
Of course.
So why don't you hold Peter Lanza responsible?
We don't hold him solely responsible. Like we said, I feel like he's made mistakes, and I don't feel like he gets the pass, but I don't feel like he should be responsible for what happened that day. That was not ultimately his decision to do that. So how can I hold him responsible for that? Were there missteps in the raising of his son? Possibly.
Robbie, you said within hours of the shooting that you hope that this isn't something that defines us, but instead something that inspires us to be better, more compassionate, more humble people. Do you believe anything has changed in this country since what happened on December 14th?
I really do. I think it's opened up people's eyes to what can I do to make sure that this doesn't happen? What can I do to be a better parent? What can I do to be a better person in society? I think that touched a lot of people in a way that before this tragedy would have been impossible to touch that many people. My hope is that that continues to inspire people.
Do you forgive Adam Lanza?
You know, I thought a lot about that specifically. And what I've come to terms with is that it's not my burden to bear. I feel like I don't understand where he was at. There's so much of it that I would need to know in order to determine his accountability. I do hold him accountable, but I feel like God will determine that. And I feel like he's in a place where the judgment will happen, and I don't have to. I don't have to judge him, and I'm at peace with that.
Now, while the Parkers won't reveal what Peter Lanza told them about his son's motive and his mental health, they do, Charlie, say they feel like they left with a better understanding after meeting him, that at some point there might be some more answers for families as they try and gain some form of closure about just why this whole thing happened and how it can be prevented in the future.
First of all, you ask all the right questions. And secondly, they seem so wise about where they are in this space. You understand that they have to continue to ask questions and wherever they can go to pursue it, because the agony of losing your child is so great, and you wonder how people have responded to their search.
You're right. They're 31 years old, and as you heard her say, this is not my burden to bear about whether to forgive him and whether to hate and whether to be angry. She's got to focus on her other two kids. The thing she said that has been so overwhelming is the outpouring of support. They took us into their house. She's got 10 boxes full of letters from people around the country. I mean, it's incredible, Charlie, these letters people have written to them, reaching out, and this is not just their family, all of the families in Newtown, this outpouring of support. And Robbie Parker is really interesting. His favorite baseball team, the Texas Rangers, they have invited him to throw out the ceremonial first pitch, which he says it's the one thing he's been looking forward to. However, a bittersweet moment, because look, he used to go with Emily, who's no longer with him, to these games. So a tough for this family, but they're trying to find some closure.